Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to day 2 of our NAPE live micro webinar series. I really hope I said that in the right order. We're so happy that you've joined us again here today, this morning. My name is Jim Shaw, I'm the President and COO of Land Information Services. Today we've got Wade Brawley, our founder and CEO, and Amy Hopmann, the Director of Land Processes. Today's subject is going to be over outsourcing. So we talk a lot about LandVantage and our software, but a very integral piece and component to our business is our outsourcing practice, and has been for a very long time. So to get us started, Wade first and then Amy. So Wade, if you'll first kind of describe our history and experience with outsourcing and what all that entails, and then Amy, if you could go into a little bit of how do we construct and implement teams for each client, and how do we attack these outsourcing engagements?
Well, we come by the outsourcing service very honestly and very early. Before my oil and gas career with Chesapeake, I was involved with Coopers & Lybrand. I managed their Oklahoma practice where companies outsourced their land administration and accounting to us. That was back in the 80s. Oil and gas career, most of you weren't alive in the 80s. Some of us were. And so early on I learned the importance of the partnership role of the client and the outsourced provider. It's not simply just outsourcing the functions of land or land administration and not having to deal with it. It's truly a partnership. You have to be very careful defining the responsibilities and the roles. Who's responsible for this, and at what point does it go to the outsourced provider? At what point does it go back to the client to approve and to be aware of what's going on? Really, really important, and that's what some of today's outsourced providers have kind of lost track of. They've kind of taken too much ownership of the back office, whereas I feel like we view it more as a partnership, and you know, it's really important to have that client involvement. So we don't like to take control. I mean, we like to have someone that we're accountable to who works for the client and has worked in this space before as a landman or land manager or lease record supervisor, division order manager. And I think that's the key to our success. And we've been doing this since 2009 under the umbrella of Land Information Services. So we've been in this space quite a long time. We know what we're doing, and we're having fun with it. It's more fun with you guys involved.
It is a lot of fun. So kind of the 4 pillars, right? We've got land, lease records, division orders, and owner relations. How do we construct those teams specifically for each client that we work with?
I think from the very get-go of a project with a team, with a client, we have to identify what their needs are and kind of build on that. The executive team is really involved in the initial onboarding. We have new onboarding kind of coordinators now for lease records, division orders, and owner relations. They help scope out, what the full project is going to look like, and how much staff they're going to need, and they work directly with the client to kind of build out exactly what the client wants and requires from us. And we have an amazing group of analysts, division order analysts, lease analysts, owner relations techs, even some landmen here. And so we can kind of build and customize to whatever their project needs are and flex on and off of projects too. We are very fluid. We can, we have analysts that only work 2 or 3 hours a month on a project, where we have some that are full-time with a client. So it really is flexible.
Yeah, that economy I think is really important because if you see, several people working all day long on your account, you start to wonder, I should have these people working in-house. But we're able to offer that blended service, right? So we've got 3 hours of a supervisor's time and 4 hours of a tech's time, and if you had to do this in-house, you might have to hire someone with that highest level of skill for the full-time equivalent, whereas we're filling that full-time equivalent with maybe 4 different levels.
Yeah.
So it makes it much more economical that way.
Well, and especially after we onboard a client and really things are moving really slow, we try to push things down to the much lower level so we're more economical. So I think that's been really important and beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. So throughout our portfolio of customers, what's the typical size of client, and where do they fall kind of in the spectrum? Can you shed a little more light on that?
I think it's really important for LandVantage and for LIS and our outsourcing is because we can customize ourselves to whatever size client we need. We're able to flex to some of the larger companies that need, maybe 5 full-time resources, or down to some of our small companies, mom and pop shops that only have a few people in their office, and they certainly don't want to manage their back office. So we're able to flex that really well.
And so as we kind of move through, the onboarding phase and implementing, these clients and the work that we're going to be performing for them, how do we then go forward, maintain that relationship? How do we plan the work and structure that? And then how do we collaborate and communicate with the client?
Well, relationships are really important at LIS with our clients. We definitely involve all of our analysts. They build relationships with the landman, the land teams, the division order teams, owner relations. It's very important that they know the clients, they become invested in their success, and I think that also makes us really unusual for outsourcing, because we really do love to help them build their success.
Well, and I think, maybe prior to 6 months ago and today, we have clients, local here in Oklahoma City, but also around other regions of the country that no matter where they're at, oftentimes we invite them to our office to meet the staff that are going to be working on their account. So it really puts a face with the name. It's not just an invoice every month where you see a name and some work performed. There's real great people here that are servicing those accounts, and so we welcome that interaction and that invitation here to the office, for them to meet our team.
And it's interesting to see that dynamic, when we introduce a client to some of the people servicing their account, because they're really grateful. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy you're doing this. And when we all worked in-house, how often did you hear that from your boss? So there seems to be a lot more gratitude from the person receiving the service. And so the analyst really enjoys their job a lot more. It's like, wow, this is great. I'm getting all these kudos, and I didn't realize what I did was so valuable and helped so much. So it's really neat to see those kinds of client-analyst relationships build, and to see their work being appreciated, which is the way it should be in-house, and could be if I think the people worked as though they were working for a client. And we always stress that when we all work together in our prior employment, that we have internal clients.
That's right.
And here we're reminded daily that we have clients, and that makes it so important and gives more meaning to our work too, I think.
It does.
It's a servant attitude that we.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting ready to say.
I think we were all.
We have such a servant-oriented, culture here at LIS, and so even though we're servicing external clients on a daily basis, we serve each other here inside our office on a daily basis as well. Whether that's cross-training, leadership opportunities, knowledge sharing, or through our technical team, on LandVantage or our service desk. We're constantly serving each other and building that type of culture here and environment then kind of bleeds over into how we serve our clients. So that's a big part of what we do every day. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, Wade. Can we go into a little bit more depth of what's the value proposition that we're proposing to these clients, why should they turn to us to outsource this work when sure they can go and hire people to do that in-house? What makes us better, and how do we give them more value?
Well, there's a lot of misconception about outsourcing, and sometimes it's a negative connotation. People think, oh, we're outsourcing, we're getting rid of jobs. And it's not been like that with any of our clients. The outsourcing that we do typically is to fill a void that wasn't there to begin with. Maybe it's a startup company. Maybe it's a new division starting up in a company and they just don't have the staff. Maybe they just need supplemental staff to help on a project, a data integrity, data cleansing project that just doesn't already exist. And we're there to come in as needed and then pull back. So we have enough staff here that we can staff a project, and then as that project goes away, we back off and we have yet another project to go to. So there's always something in the pipeline. Whereas if you tried to hire that in-house, you'd be suffering from severance payments to, to reduce your staff and retrain your staff, and so you don't have to deal with that as an employer. So it makes a lot of economic sense when you think about the cost of hiring and training an employee, and then the cost of reprimands, and you hire the wrong person. So we kind of absorb all of that heartache and headache, and that's been very valuable to our clients. And for a client who doesn't want to staff up or lease the facilities and buy the equipment to support a large staff, that's made a big economic impact on them.
Yeah.
So that's been what's been really attractive, I think, with dealing with our customers, is just not having the headache of managing people.
Yeah.
Especially what if you're just starting up and you really don't have lease records experience, or you really don't have division order experience. You're a great landman, you're a great negotiator, you're a great deal maker. You might want to rely on Amy and some of her coordinators and supervisors who have that skill set.
Yeah. And
so that's been a real value proposition to our clients as well, is the ability to leverage off of advisors like Amy and others. We advise on a lot of difficult transactions and record keeping and challenges that our customers have. So that's been I think a valuable component of our outsourcing, is having that upper level skill level that we offer to advise our clients.
I think for a lot of our startup companies too, they appreciate the instant infrastructure and processes because we have them completely built out. Then we can tweak them for their individual business needs. So I think that's been really valuable too.
So start to wrap up a little bit here in just a few minutes with a couple. We've got some questions that are coming in through the Q&A chat. So if you're logged in, if you're viewing, you have a question, please submit it through. We'll see it here. We'll be able to answer those questions. But I think this has been really eye-opening in the sense that we really do service end-to-end back office, any skill level, be it entry-level tech, all the way up through management, consulting and advisory board, and you don't have to pay for just a single bucket of skill level. You get a nice variety, nice blended variety. So let's take a question real quick before we move any further. What is the most important thing for clients to consider when they're thinking about outsourcing to your team?
I think it's their amount of buy-in that they're going to participate. I think it's really important to have an advocate at the client's office who is going to work with us and really show us what their business needs are, tell us what they need, work with us on weekly updates. It's really important to get that feedback from the clients to know that we're giving them exactly what they need.
And manage the expectations.
Yes.
What do they expect from this engagement? Is it short term? Is it long term? Are there going to be physical deliverables, or is the deliverable going to be electronic data entered into their system? So that has to be very clear, is what's going to be delivered.
Yeah.
And the cost. That's what the question, the person posing the question was really wanting to hear.
Yeah.
The right budget.
That's right. That's right. And that's something that obviously in today's economy, everybody is very sensitive to, and so are we. We still need to be competitive and maintain a good service level while still providing value at an attractive price. And so we do work every week with our clients on budgeting and making sure that we're staying within certain limits or adhering to certain requirements. So that's obviously a critical component to having a successful relationship. Something else, and Wade, another question that's come in, and you touched on this a little bit earlier, but how, there's a little bit of that stigma that we talked about with outsourcing, and, when a company is maybe already established and has some lease analysts or division order analysts on site, and we're here to either help with just a project or maybe fill a gap or a void that they need on a recurring basis, how do we convince them or convey the message that we're here to supplement and not just completely overtake their day-to-day work, and we're not displacing, we're just supplementing?
Well, again, our relationships with our clients and with their staff is really important. And a lot of us have been in the industry for a long time and we know these people. And so we have those relationships even outside of this engagement. So I think just knowing that we are there for them and support them and just kind of supplement what they're already doing just to help get over a backlog issue or, a new asset. We do a lot of acquisition work, so just kind of help getting people up and running, and then we just kind of back out when they're ready.
And I think it's important to define the roles,
Yes.
especially when they already have an analyst or resource at that same skill level that we're going to be bringing in
Yeah.
on an outsourced basis. We don't want to duplicate work. We don't want to, create more busy work. So it's really important that we know what is this person going to do in-house and what are we going to do so that we're not conflicting or duplicating.
And especially during this time, there's a lot of people out there who are using this downturn to kind of really clean up their data, and so they're using us to supplement their staff to kind of get it to the finish line. So that's been really neat, and they work directly with their analysts, so that's helpful.
I think we've got time for at least one more question here before we start wrapping up, and I think this is a great question to end on. Today, the world is a whole lot different than what it was a few months ago, and potentially the future of our industry is changing as we speak. So how do we see, especially on the back office side, how do we see the actual work and how we perform that work changing over the next months and years ahead compared to how we've been doing it for so many years?
Well, I think it opens the door to everyone realizing that you can work remotely and you can outsource to someone who's not in your building or even in your city. And I think it's, of course, we touched on this a little bit yesterday, that it's got to be paperless. You've got to have your files imaged, and you have to be able to hand off work to each other virtually, and through a workflow, through images, and not physically handing off paper. So that's going to change the workplace forever. So those who weren't prepared for this, I think, are really suffering, and will probably change forever, I think.
One of the questions we get asked a lot when we're meeting potential clients is, where is your business at? Is it the outsourcing or is it LandVantage? Well, they really supplement each other, and I think it is even more valuable now with all of our workflows that we have, because people are working remotely and they will continue to work remotely for the unforeseeable future. So the outsourcing definitely helps with that.
Yeah, most definitely. Any closing words before we start to wrap up?
Well, we'd like to take more questions. We'd like for you to come back tomorrow and watch our session on LandVantage 2.0. We're really excited about 2.0 and the additional workflows and the faster performance. So real excited about that, and we're generating a lot of excitement in the industry, I think. A lot of people are talking about it. So we hope to see you guys there. And I'd like to attend some of the webinars, the sessions. We've got some really good topics that are relevant to today's industry, with how to perpetuate your leases with shut-in wells, bankruptcy. I hate to even use that word, but I noticed that was one of the topics, and I'm sure that'll be attended quite heavily. So we have a lot of challenges out there, and so one challenge should not be the software you use or how you get your business done. We want to ease that through our workflows and through our system, through LandVantage.
I think one of the things for me about having a virtual NAPE versus the in-person is I love to see all of our current clients there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I'm really missing this year. So I would love to do that again next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, like Wade said, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking an interest in learning more about our business. So again, tune in tomorrow, 1 o'clock is going to be a 2.0 overview of LandVantage. I'll be helping guide some of that demonstration. Amy's going to join along the way. She has been absolutely instrumental in developing a lot of the workflows and some of the new features and functionalities that you all are really going to appreciate and take advantage of in the new 2.0 platform. And then rounding out the week on Friday morning is going to be Joel Thomas, our Director of Innovation and Technology. We're really going to get into kind of the nuts and bolts of what have we done, technically speaking, that's made 2.0 so much bigger and better than what it was before, and I'll be joining him, and we'll be talking about LandVantage 2.0 a little bit more. So thank you all so much for joining us this morning. We look forward to talking to you soon.
We've got one more giveaway, though.
Oh,
We are giving away the LIS drone. We are booth 1309, and it's Charles Warner from the Land Department at Blake Production. So we will get with you and get you your drone.
congratulations, Charles. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk soon.